Hey guys, welcome. Here's our study guide. Let's get to it. Our rules: negative exponent, we put it under 1. Product rule, we add our exponents. Power rule, we multiply our exponents. And quotient rule, we subtract our exponents. Let's get into some problems. If they have the same base, we add our exponents, so it's just going to be 2 to the 6th power. We could evaluate that, but we're just going to simplify. We have same base, so we can subtract our exponents. That's going to be 4 to the 8th power. 13 minus 5 is going to give us 8. Next, we have 7, x to the 4th, x squared. X is the same base. We're going to get x to the 6th power. We're adding them, and the 7 just stays. 8 times negative 3, we multiply those together, which gives us negative 24. And 5 and 4 added together because they have the same base, which gives us 9. A power to a power, now the whole thing's negative, but it's being squared. Remember, negative times a negative is going to equal a positive. So we know our value is positive. So we're going to get 2 squared, and y. 3 to the 2nd power is actually going to give us 6. It multiplies. So we're going to get 4 y to the 6th. Again, power to a power, we want to go ahead and distribute. We end up with 4 to the 3rd power, and then 4 to the 3rd power is going to give me 4 times 3, or 12, and then 4 to the 3rd power is going to give me 64x 12. We have 3 squared, that's going to give me 9. And then we're going to subtract, or just bring this down. So that's going to become x squared goes on the bottom. Y to the negative 4th is going to go to the top. And then x to the 5th is also still on the bottom. They're on the bottom, they're going to multiply, so we add them together. And we get x to the 7th. Again, it's squaring a negative, so it's actually going to come out to be a positive answer. And 3 to the 2nd power is n to the 6th, and 5 squared is going to be 25. Here we're going to raise the 4 to the 5th and 2 to the 5th power. So we're going to do 4 times 5, so that's going to give me r to the 20th over p to the 10th. Here we're multiplying. Negative 4 and 6 will give me negative 24. Then we're going to match up the x's. They're multiplying, so we add the base, or the exponents. And then z to the 4th, z to the 3rd will give me z to the 7th. I'm going to zoom in just a bit. Number 11, we have to deal with the powers first. So I'm going to get 3 squared. 5 squared is going to be multiplication. And then c squared. And then we're going to deal with r to the 3rd, c to the 3rd. And now we're multiplying. Take care of 3 squared, which is 9. R to the 10th, r to the 3rd is r to the 13th. C squared, c to the 3rd is c to the 5th. Again, we multiply when we do powers, but we add when we do multiplication. 3 to the negative 2nd power, to get rid of the negative, we put it underneath, and then square it, we get 1 over 9. X has a 0 power, so it becomes 1. The 5 does not, so it's just 5 times 1, which is just 5. 1/2 means we're going to just take the square root of 4x. 4 breaks down to 2 and 2. We have 2 equal factors, so I get to pull out the 2. The x is stuck behind. They're both negative, so they just flip locations. 1 goes up, 1 goes down. 8 divided by 2 is going to give me 4 on top. 6 and 3, they're going to subtract. This is the bigger number, so it's going to stay on top. 3 and 8, 8's the bigger number, so it's going to stay on the bottom. The top here I'm going to square. It's negative, so squared is going to make it positive. 3 squared is 9, and 6 squared is going to be x to the 12th. It multiplies. The bases are going to multiply. 5 times 3, which is 15. And then x times 3, or x to the third times x to the third is x to the 9th. 9 over 15, 3 goes into both. 3 goes into 9 3 times, and into 15 5 times. And then these are going to subtract to give me x over, or x to the third goes on top because 12 is bigger than 9. This whole thing is negative, and this is negative, so we're going to have a to the 12th stay on top. This whole thing is going to come up, and this is going to go to the bottom. We can distribute the negative, and we get a to the 12th, a to the 4th, b to the 4th, and b to the 3rd. These are on the same line, so they're going to multiply, and we're going to add our exponents to be a to the 16th power. 4 and the 3 have the same base, so we're going to subtract. 1 would be the difference, and it's going to stay on top. So we just are left with b to the 16, b to the 1st. Here we have to distribute the 2 to everything. 4 squared is 16. X to the 4th raised to the 2nd is x to the 8th, and that's going to be y to the 4th. Then we're going to put it all over. That's going to be 36 x squared y squared. 16 and 36 are both divisible by 4, leaving you with 4 and 9. Subtract here, we leave x to the 6th on top. Subtract here, y to the 2nd. Here we're going to take the square root of this whole function. And the reason why we do that is 2 goes in the index and then 1 goes in the power up here, but that doesn't change anything. So we can simplify it first and then try and take the square root. 30 and 6, if we divide 30 by 6, we're going to get 5. And then 3 and 6, that's going to be x to the 3rd. And then that's just y to the 4th power. And it's square rooted. We can't take the square root of 5 and break that down. Here we can break this down to x, x, and x, and we get 2 sets to come out. And 1 stays behind. And then this can be broken down to y squared and y squared, which we can pull out and get our answer like that. Simplifying the radical, we want to go ahead and break this down. This is going to be 24 and 10. And then we can break these down into 5 and 2. We've taken care of the 10. This is going to become 6 and 4, 2 and 3, 2 and 2. So we're looking for 2 equal factors. Well, I have a set of 2 here, and then I have kind of another set of 2 right there. So I get to pull a 2 out and a 2 out, and then I'm left with a 3 and a 5, where I couldn't do anything, so they stay behind. So I get 4 rad 15. Down here, this is going to be 3 and 25, and this is going to be 5 and 5. So I get to pull a 5 out, but the 3 is going to stay behind. X squared is x and x, so I get to pull an x out, and I'm left with that 3y inside. 28 can break down to 2 and 14. This can break down to 2 and 7, so I can pull 2 out, but the 7 is going to stay back. You can also think about how many times does 2 fit into this. So 2 fits into it once, so you can pull an x out. And it has a remainder of 1, so 1 will stay behind, so the 7 and the x are behind. And how many times does 2 fit into 3? It fits in once, so we get to pick 1 out, and it has a remainder of 1. Here we're looking for 3 equal factors. 189 is kind of a tricky one, but I would divide by 3, and then we get 63, which we can divide. That would be, what, 9 and 7, and then that's 3 and 3. So I do get a group of 3 to come out, and we have the 7 remaining, and it is negative still. 16, 3 to the 4th, I'm going to put 4 in the index, and 16 is going to go with the cubed inside. This is the same thing as 16, 16, and 16. And we're going to go ahead and break that down to 4, 4, 4, 4, and 4, 4. And the reason why is I'm looking for 4 equal factors, so 4 gets to come out. And these break down to 2, 2, 2, 2, and those come out. So I'm left with 8 when I multiply them back together. Same thing here, 3 is going to go in the index, and then this is 64 squared. We're going to break that down to 64 and 64. Kind of running out of room here. This will break down into 8s, so that's 8, 8, 8, and 8, which we get 3 8s to come out. And this breaks down to 4, 2, 2, and 2. So we get to take 8 and 2 out. So that's going to be 8 and 2, which gives me 16. This last one here, we're going to break this one down to 3 and 9, and 3 and 3, so the 3's come out. 3 goes into 10 3 times, so we can get c to the third, but that's 9, so I'm left over with 1c. And 3 goes into 12 4 times evenly, so it's just r to the fourth. We can break this down to 4 and 2. 4 is a perfect square, so I could just pull it out that way, 2, and then leave the 2 behind. X to the 10th, 2 will go into that evenly 5 times, and 2 will go into that twice with a remainder of 1. Here I can take the cube root of the top and the bottom. And this is the same thing as just 3 times 3 times 3, and this is just the same as 4 times 4 times 4. Rationalizing the denominator, we have to multiply rad 2 times rad 2. That would give it 2. But if I do it to the bottom, I have to do it to the top, so I get 5 rad 2 over 2, and we can't simplify. On 31, I would go ahead and simplify these radicals first, which would give me rad 8. And then I could break this down to 4 and 2. 4 is a perfect square, so I get 2 rad 2. (32) asks me to plug in 4 and then raise it to the 1/2. This is just doing the square root of 4, which is just 2. (-3) times 4, and then we're going to get (-2) squared. Always take care of this first. (-2) squared is 4. 4 times 4 is 16, and (-3) times 16 is going to be a (-48). Alright, these last ones I really want you to try plugging into your calculator. I'll help them set them up. And we got 1,000 into the account with 8.5 annually. How much money will you have after 20 years? This is growing, so we're going to use our growth formula, where it's a 1 plus r raised to the t. A is going to be 1,000 plus 1.085 raised to the 20. I want you to try plugging that in your calculator. I'm not going to give you the answer because I want to see what you get when we come to class. A boat depreciates. This means I'm going to subtract. So we're going to use y equals a 1 minus r raised to the t. So it's going to be 40,000 is what it's currently. 1 minus 0.15 raised to 3. Again, I want you to plug that in your calculator and see if you can get the right answer. The recycling plant currently has 15 tons of aluminum. This grows, so we're looking at growth, 10% every day. How many will they have after 30 days? So again, we're just going to use a 1 plus r to the t. We start with 15 tons. We add 1.10, that's 10%, raised to 30 days. See if you can get that in your calculator. And last but not least, $2,000 in a bank earns 2%. Compounded monthly. That means now I'm using a different formula where I have to take into account compounding. The principal is 2,000, the amount I start with, plus the 2% interest. Monthly means 12 for n, raised to the 5 times 12. Again, let's see if you can put that in your calculator. Alright guys, very good today.